right now we need to set the prefabs of what we display inside these chests when we open these up. So we're going to first start by creating a empty game object. We're going to call this spawn position. And this is inside the chest, and this is where we're going to spawn our object inside of our chest. And then we're going to serialize that field and make sure that spawn position is placed. Now when you get assets, sometimes they come in all different sizes or shapes or orientations, and for this display we want to make sure that we create one display system that is universal to all of them. So I'm going to create a loot display, and this one is just going to be for the gun. And right now I'm going to set the gun a little bit higher vertically on this loot display. Then I want to create a spotlight, and this spotlight is going to shine upwards with a larger cone. I'm going to decrease the radius, I'm going to adjust the intensity so it's not so overwhelming, and I want this color to be green because that's generally what the standard ones are. I'll boost up the volumetric lighting, and I'll decrease the range. Next, I'm going to create a particle system, and it's going to have these little particles that shoot up. I'm going to create a particle material called loot particle, and I'm going to make sure for the base map, I'm going to add the particle map, the default particle texture map on there. And I'm going to boost up the emission, and I'm going to drop that particle in, and of course I got to make sure it's transparent and it doesn't preserve the specularity when I do that as well. Then I'm going to set the particle color to a more golden yellow, and I want to set that in the emission channel, and I want to blast the emission intensity up so it gets really bright. Next, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the emission direction. I'm going to decrease the lifetime of these particles. I also want to change the speed and the size so they're not so gigantic. I also want to set this to a world position, and then in my shape, I'm going to decrease my radius so it gets a little bit small. Finally, I want to go to size over time and make sure that it's larger when it starts and it scales down, and I add some noise so it's not so evenly distributed. Once I get that particle system done, then I'm going to go ahead and create a prefab of this loot display for the gun. And instead of rebuilding everything, I'm going to unpack the prefab, and then I'm going to grab my RPG. I'm going to drop it in, and I'm going to change the position of the RPG to be similar to the gun, and all I'm really going to change is the color of the light. So instead of green, generally you go with like a more of a bluish color for more epic weapons, and I'll make this a prefab, and I'll call this RPG, and then I'm going to drop that into my prefab folder. And finally I need to make my legendary weapon prefab, so I'm going to drop in my sci-fi gun. I'm going to change the orientation and the position on the X and the Y, make sure the scale looks appropriate, change the color of my spotlight to more of a golden light, and now my legendary prefab loot display is done, and it's ready to be instantiated in the box.